Welcome to another segment of Lady Mogul Talk. Today, we are excited to welcome to the stage Jennifer Black, who is the founder of First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services, which is a company that helps families navigate the loss of a loved one through planning, handling affairs, and grief coaching. After losing multiple family members unexpectedly, God called Jennifer to not only step up and be a help to her family, but to families all over. She understands that grieving families need assistance immediately following the death of a loved one and to ensure arrangements are being handled properly. She is passionate about being an advocate for families to ensure that they are not taken advantage of in such a vulnerable state. She has a bachelor's of science in computer science and years of experience in the insurance industry. But most importantly, she understands that grief is a day-to-day journey. So I am excited to welcome Jennifer Black. Welcome. Happy to have you here today.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to get into this conversation because this is such a great and timely topic about bereavement, considering everything that we've been going through with COVID and just bereavement in general for those who might have cancer and other types of illness. So I know that you said that you went through your own personal loss and challenges, but what made you decide to take this from just your own platform, but to help others as well?
Well, in going through my own grief and losing multiple family members unexpectedly, it was really hard because I'm saying to myself, how are they able to grieve properly and handle affairs? Something's going to fall through the cracks because it did for my family and I. You will be taken advantage of because it did happen to my family. And so at that point, once, I want to say in that year, the third family member died, God was just saying, you're going to be the person, you're going to be their advocate. You're going to help them with this grief. You're going to hold their hand and make sure it doesn't happen to anybody. And I'm so adamant about that. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I said, once God gave me that assignment, I took that very seriously. And I'm passionate about it. I love it too. It's a gift, but it's very heavy, but it's very rewarding. And so I wanted to make sure no family had to go through that ever again. And so that's how the business came about.
And that's an amazing thing that you're doing because as you said, it is a lot that goes into planning bereavement services and even the counseling part of it. That's important. Not a lot of people take into account maybe getting those services to help them through such a tough time. And I remember, I can't remember exactly where, but I was on a meeting or a meetup, and someone was. I know I remember exactly where we were going through the seven features of highly effective people. And one of the things we were talking about was proactive versus reactive. And one of the individuals, she lost her father, and they were going through the bereavement process and then also trying to, handle the services, handle the estate. And she was just mentioning, she thought she was being reactive because she's trying to manage both, but the facilitator was saying how she was being proactive because she was able to manage it so well, even though she felt in her mind that she wasn't doing a good job. So I'm sure having such services allows you just to have that grieving process instead of having to manage or balance both. So what advice would you have for someone who is going through such a tough time of grieving and trying to keep it all together?
And, with your friend, she probably was doing the best she could, because I think a lot of times when we are reactive because we don't prepare and we have to do survival of the fittest. We have to do to get the things done, to get those arrangements done. So I would say to prepare as much as you can, have the conversation with your family. Okay, who's going to handle what? And I don't like people to look at, a lot of times people do this, but I'm trying to change that, where you don't look at death as gloom and doom, preparing for it, because people say, oh, are you trying to kill me off? Or I don't want to talk about that because it's too, it hits home and it's sensitive to a lot of people. But you have to look at it different, change your mindset. You're not going to be here anymore. Your family has to deal with this. What do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? What do you want? You'd be surprised. I even had to sit down and say to myself, what do I want? My
Mm-hmm.
husband knows some stuff, but he doesn't know everything, and vice versa. I know he wants to be buried in the Eagles jersey, right? He doesn't want to have his funeral at a church. So those things are important because you want to make the funeral reflect that person. And so I would say to definitely prepare as much as you can. Again, don't overwhelm yourself because it is sensitive. So just have the conversation first. All right. Did you ever think about who you want to do what? Where's your life insurance policy? How much do you have? Where are the documents for your will? Or what do you have with your job? What kind of life insurance do you have with your job? So just having those conversations, that's a first step. I would definitely say to do that. Another thing would be to hire someone. I didn't know that I existed until it happened. That's how I know it's God ordained, because even when I was doing my research, I didn't find a lot of companies that do what I do. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't want any family to go through that. So, my clients, they're my family. I am your advocate. I'm going hard for you because I want to make sure that you are able to grieve properly, and with your consent, I'm handling your affairs. I'm talking to the funeral home. I'm making sure that they're giving you a list of their services versus what do you have? We could work with you. No, that's not what you do. You give me a list of your services so I can shop around. My families can shop around. And so just make sure that and if you can't, I also have a guide that I help you with. Like, I have a guide to help you in the event that I can't be there, because some people want to try to do it themselves, and they can, but I just wanted to make sure I had a guide to help you step by step if I'm not there, to tell you what exactly to do.
And that's amazing. I love that you said being an advocate for the families, because so many do need an advocate, especially like we said during COVID. So I would love to know how, because it changed the space of like how we gather and how we meet. How were you able to help families still honor their family members during COVID when we were so restricted as far as space and how we could come together?
It was really tough, Avery. It really was, because I'm all about, I feel what these families feel. I'm very empathetic. I want them to feel like I'm their family. So a lot of times we would have to do things virtually. I met with one family at the funeral home. Her son passed away. And so basically they had something small at the funeral. It was probably about 10 of them. I had another client where we had a memorial service, but he died in May, and we couldn't have it and he was a vet, and we couldn't have it until August, because it took time to get him at the veterans cemetery. It took so much time because, the funeral homes, the mortuaries, they were backed up. Right? The crematories, everybody was backed up. And so it was very challenging, but I still tried to bring that same, I just asked God, like, help me, teach me how to be creative in this way where they can still feel, that I'm there, and that, it's not being rushed, because a lot of them were forced to cremate, were forced to just have a memorial and not the service and the celebration that they wanted their family members to have because of the restrictions of COVID and because people were so scared. The most, I would say, important and vital thing when somebody passes away is like that physical touch, that hug, where you don't have to say anything, you could just hug, but that was taken away. And so that was really, really challenging, not only for my business, but for my families and families all over the world, honestly. So it was very, very challenging and different, because I was not so much hands-on, because it was pretty much go to the funeral home. They did everything. You go to the service and then you leave. No repast, no long services, none of that, because people just felt like I can't do what I really want to do. So kind of like, let's get this over with, because it's not really what I want. And it was really heartbreaking.
Yes, and I'm glad that you mentioned heartbreaking, because that's exactly what I was going to transition to. You see, of course, a lot of loss as you help the families through the process. How do you, I don't like to say balance, but I guess in this way it fits in a way. So how do you balance the grief that you have helped them to carry, and then you're working just working in general, and then your family, that work-life balance when you have to help so many through such a heavy burden?
That is also challenging, Avery, and that's why I just pray to God, because again, what I do is rewarding, but it's very heavy. I'll think about people I don't even know, and I feel their grief, and I'm just like sobbing uncontrollably. I'll hear about different deaths and pray and just really crying, and I'm like, I just had found out recently that 3 people I went to college with died in a car accident instantly. One didn't even make her 40th birthday. And so that happened like a month ago. And I'm just telling my husband, I'm like, I can't shake it. Like, I feel so bad. So it is challenging. Mm-hmm. But I try not to let it overtake my family time because, you know, that's my family. Mm-hmm. They come, you know, it's God and then them. So I want to make sure that I don't bring that home, so to speak, but I do. And my husband understands because he knows I've been doing this for years. And so it is a challenge, but I ask God, just help me to balance it where I'm not so overtaken by their grief that I can't function, that I can't be productive, that I can't help other families because it's going to happen. I definitely keep myself together, especially at services. But when I get home, oh my gosh, I'm crying for days. So it is challenging, but I just ask God to give me the strength that only he can give me to balance my family and the other families as well.
And you mentioned a very good point about having a support system and then, of course, having faith in God to get you through the process, because I can only imagine what you experience. I probably would be crying every day myself, but having the support system is very important. And even for those who might not have a strong family unit, just finding an accountability partner or finding someone who can help you through whatever challenges that you go through. It might not be this heavy, but we all go through personal battles and we do need to talk it out. So I'm very glad that you highlighted that. Very important to note. Now, switching gears just a little bit, you have a degree in computer science and you worked in the insurance industry for several years. So tell us what that was like and how was it switching from corporate to entrepreneurship to working in your brand?
It was in college. You know, when you grow up, you're like, I want to be this, I want to be that. In college, I just said computer science. I'll do computer science, try it out, see how it goes. But even, I would say my sophomore year, I knew I didn't really want to do that because I was more of a people person. Not that you can't be with computer science, but I just felt like I didn't want to be behind a computer. I didn't want to, I wanted to be more hands-on. And so for years, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Even after college, I was just like, what do I want to do? What do you want me to do, God? And then I got into the insurance business with like auto claims and general liability, slip and falls, things like that. And I enjoyed talking to the people. I enjoyed helping them. So I'm like, all right, people helping. What else? And so honestly, once death would come, I would find myself, you know, really reaching out to people, making sure they're okay, you know, just like stuff. And then when things started hitting home, I you know, people, my family would call on me to help because we're really close. I have a big family. My dad has 11 brothers and sisters. My mom has 7. And so once people started passing away, they were like calling me just to help because we're really close. And so I was doing different things. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm talking to medical examiners. My one uncle passed away out of state, so we're trying to get his stuff. And I'm just, you know, all over the place, not even knowing what I'm doing, but it just felt good. It felt good. And then I had to ask myself, is it just because it's my family? But it wasn't. And so that's how, you know, that's when God was like, this is what you're going to be doing. I'm like, yes, because I love that. And looking back, I was doing some of the things that I'm doing now and didn't even know. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to really tap into what God wanted me to do because I love it.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for us to follow our purpose. And speaking of what you do in your business, this is the perfect segue to tell us exactly how you help families, and then of course plug in any thing that you would like about your business as well.
So, First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services, we help families with the aftermath of loss. What does that look like? So we help you. We're your advocate, as I was mentioning earlier. So we're holding your hand throughout the whole process of this loss. And so what does that look like? It looks like us communicating with the funeral home, the cemetery, the venue, wherever you're going to have the service. We're helping you we can help with the obituary, with the service, right? The funeral service. We are your advocate, and, you know, with your consent. I mean, I have gotten, you know, really cussed out a few times because a brother was mad that he was in a different limo than somebody else. But I said, this is what the person who's investing, and this is her wishes, and this is what I'm doing. I didn't mind. I got tough skin. It's fine. So I'm your advocate with family members you don't want to necessarily speak with and you feel like you can't say no to. I will do that for you. And also with at the funeral, because the funeral home, they have a service to do. So they're in and they're out. That's it. They're not ushering. They're not making sure who's taking the cards, who is leading people to the repast and different things of that nature. And that's what we do. Your loved one off of certain accounts, right? Because that's really hard, phone and TV or whatever the case may be, or if you need to sell the house, and even going through their stuff, that is very, very, very challenging and tough for a lot of people. So we help you. We're holding your hand, because remember, once the funeral's over, everybody goes back to their normal, right? And you're living a new normal. There's nobody bringing over sandwiches, chicken, juice. Nobody's doing that because they're going back to their lives, right? And so it's just you or whoever is left, right? And so we're there to hold your hand. We don't just help you and then leave, because we understand that's when it hits the hardest, that week after, because nobody's there and you're like, wait, what do I do now? What do I do now? So we're helping you with that. And with that, I also am a certified grief coach. So I help you in regards to, especially like business and career driven women who've lost their passion and their zeal as a result of that grief. I help them get that back. What does that look like? Walking you through and teaching you how to get that back moving forward. It's not to negate and say that you're not going to be grieving, but you have decided, all right, I'm grieving. It's a lifelong journey. There's no time frames, and don't let anybody tell you different or how your grief is, because you're learning it every day. And then we move forward in your business, in your goals and things you want to do. I show you how to teach you how to move forward in that, and I'm walking it right through you. We do also help prepare. I don't really advertise that as much, but we do help you prepare. So we'll look for, because I am licensed. I'm an insurance license agent as well, because I wanted to make sure that I'm able to read policies and read between the lines for my clients. So we help you get things in order, whether that's a will, a last will and testament, a living will, life insurance. I'm just kind of preparing you and getting your things in order. So when something does happen, because it will, your families will be in a good financial place.
And that's what sets you apart. I'm like, wow, she does all of this as you were speaking. What came to mind is that you're not just transactional as a lot of agencies or services are. You really do put that compassion into your business, into helping others. You want to make sure that they are well taken care of, not just during the services, but after. And another word that came to mind was a holistic approach, making sure that they're good in their personal life and career. So I just absolutely love what you do. Now, as you continue in your business and career, what do you want to be known for in your industry or just life in general?
Oh, that's a great question, Avery. I don't think anybody has ever asked me that. I want to be known to be the go-to for grieving families, for grieving hearts. Because a lot of times they feel alone. They feel like no one's there for them. And I want to be that person to say, Jennifer's there. She has my back. And that's with whatever I can do, because I'm a concierge. So even if I can't do it, I'm not a licensed psychiatrist, a licensed psychologist. I tell people that I'm a certified grief coach. I see a certified grief coach, right? So even if I feel like it's not a good fit, if I don't know something, I'm going to find out for you. I'm going to find out a resource for you. I have attorneys that I have colleague attorneys. So if it's a matter of, a will, you have assets and you need a will and an attorney, I can help with that. Whatever it is I can do, whether it is praying for you, coaching you, leading you to someone else that can help you with other affairs, i.e. estate planning or something of that sort, I'm going to do it. So I want to be the go-to for grieving hearts, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes. And what's next for you? We definitely want to stay connected to your journey because you have such an amazing platform. So what's next?
I've been praying about that as well, Avery, because I'm always praying for creative and out of the box products and services for people that are grieving, because therapy turns some people off, right? The word therapy and just sitting in a circle, gloom and doom, that's what people think a lot of times, right? So I want to create different products and service, a safe haven for people who are dealing with grief. What does that look like? I have it in my mind, but I'm not exactly sure yet. I just want somewhere where they can just be themselves. They can express how they want to express. They can just feel like they're not alone. And so that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I do have a Facebook support group, but, people can hide behind that a lot of times because they just don't want to share and they just feel so overwhelmed. So that's what I'm actually thinking about right now as to what is my next move, what is my next goal for people who are dealing with grief, because I want to create an even bigger community that's more they're more involved and don't feel like they're alone, because even in the group people still feel alone. They feel alone. That's the number one thing that I hear in regards to people that are dealing with grief. So I am praying for different ways to interact and engage with them so they don't feel that way. So that's kind of where I'm at and what I'm thinking about at this time. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to see where you take your business, Jennifer. And this has been just an enlightening conversation about grief. I love that we have a diverse array of guest interviewees, and bereavement is something that we don't really talk about. We try to shy away from as a society, but it really is important to discuss and, as you said, to prepare. So I want to make sure that my audience can keep up with you. Are there any email links or social media or websites that you would like for them to know?
Yes, they can definitely follow up with me on Instagram, Jennifer D, as in Delta, Black. So Jennifer D Black, that's all my social media platforms that you can find us on. And First 24 Bereavement, that's also on Facebook as well. www.first24loss.com. That's the number one, ST, the number 24 and loss, LOSS.com. I know that's kind of long. And it's called First 24, fun fact, because we're there within the first 24 hours of you losing your loved one. So that's how that came about. So yeah, I'm definitely on Instagram, and on Instagram, if you go on my link, you'll get everything as far as, my products, my services, my devotional, and the workbook, of course, and my one-on-one coaching.
That's amazing. And we'll be sure to have all of that linked for the Lady Mogul community. Thank you so much, Jennifer Black. Are there any final words that you would like to share with our audience?
Thank you, Avery, so much. This was such an honor to be on here. As soon as I saw Mogul, I was like, what? But that's how we do. We try to just dumb ourselves down. But thank you for this opportunity. I'm always honored. I would just say anyone who is dealing with grief, take it one day at a time. It is a journey. And be patient with yourselves. Feel what you feel. Don't try to, negate your grief or think you're grieving too much or not enough. Just let it happen. And when you feel it, just let yourself feel it. You could be angry tomorrow, depressed the next day, and then, accepting the next day. It's an array of emotions. It's an emotional roller coaster. I'm still grieving about people that passed away years ago. I also want to tell you that we grieve different things, not just physical loss. Grief is loss of a physical person, but also it could be divorce. It could be a miscarriage. It could be loss of a business. So we still have to deal with that grief. Don't think that that's not as important to deal with, because it is. Otherwise, it'll manifest in different areas of your life in bad ways. So just be patient with yourself, love on yourself, and take it one day at a time.
That's a great way to end Lady Mogul Talk, because yes, take it one day at a time. So I hope everyone has internalized this message and has taken something out of this. And I have for just to keep in mind as I prepare for maybe my estate and different things. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time with us. And I hope everyone will stay in contact with you, Jennifer. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Avery. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. This has been another segment of Lady Mogul Talk, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.